All right. Well, welcome everybody to another OBA Bar Talk podcast, now on videocast, virtual chat. I'm Dave Summers, Executive Director of the Omaha Bar Association, and I have the great privilege of being on the Zoom video conference today with three Goosmann attorneys. I have Joel Carney, Larry Roland, and Patrick McNamara. How are you guys all doing today?
Great, Dave. Thanks.
Doing great.
Good, Dave. Thanks for having us.
So this, and I have to admit, this is my do-over with you all, because we had a podcast back. Oh man, this must have been maybe almost 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. We did a podcast. It was great. We also had Josh White, who was executive director at the firm at the time. We had you all around the table. We were jiving. It was great. I went back home and I tried to play that audio, and turns out I only had Larry Roland mic'd up.
And like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it sounded great. Larry had some great things in there, but there was a lot of silence that didn't make sense. So tried to fix the technology, did not. So we're here today in video, in the next best thing, which is that you get to look at our faces as we talk now. So welcome back to the podcast, although the original take is just sitting on my computer. So thank you guys. Now, for those out there who don't know, Joel, can you give us an idea of Goosmann Law, how long it's been here, what sort of work you all do?
You bet. So, boy, we'll be 3 years in July in the Omaha market, and so back then it started out with myself and my paralegal, Deb Heller, and we moved actually into the Advent patent law office. It's across the hall from where our office sits now, and we had a couple offices, and in a short amount of time we were able to grow it to about 6 lawyers and started our build out across the hall where we sit now. So we built out 7,800 feet here in the second floor of the Advent building. So we're out in Village Point, right next to Pitch Pizza, nice view of Dodge Street, and we've enjoyed the accessibility, especially for a guy like me who works out or lives out west. It's nice to have a commute where it doesn't involve Dodge Street. Now, Larry Roland and Patrick may have other thoughts about how convenient it is to get here, but we found it really accessible for our clients, and we've grown it well. So now here in Omaha, we're 13 lawyers, a team of 22, 23 people, and we're proud of it. We've done that in 3 years, grown it really quickly, but have tried to grow it strategically from a practice area standpoint, where we're growing strategically, not just adding lawyers that we're looking for someplace, and we want to have people that are kind of like-minded in terms of the mentality of how we like to practice law, and we're really excited about the team we've been able to build in this short amount of time.
And that reverse commuting, I think, is kind of genius. And I mean, Larry, you're right on Dodge there, Memorial Park. Everyone's fighting to get downtown, and you're headed the other way. That works well. That probably shortens it up, and even going with traffic, right?
Correct. I can go from 57th and Dodge to 180th and Dodge in 14 minutes, and that's following the speed limits. The city is good west of 72nd. The lights are well timed. So it is a good city engineering plan going that way. I hope that doesn't change too much when the rapid transit lines get thrown in.
Larry, with your background, before you went to law school, you were a truck driver. You were over-the-road truck driver. And you do some of that work. You do some transportation work in your practice?
Yeah, so, and this is kind of a throwback. 23 years ago, almost to the day, is the first time that I was on television. I started in the world of politics in Washington, D.C. I just wanted to be a policy wonk all day long. Somehow I ended up on TV and then producing TV behind the camera, and then trucks. And so that communications and transportation, those are two things that I still get to do when it comes to the world of law. You usually don't get too many opportunities like that to do something with the legal profession that you actually have working knowledge of, because that was a previous career for you. So I'm lucky on a daily basis whenever anybody has FMCSA questions or FCC communication questions, because I know that stuff. So that's nice.
Absolutely. Well, and you guys are now, I think I see Joel and Larry in office settings, or maybe Larry, that's your home office. Patrick, we've been here before. You're definitely at home. So
Kitchen table, just
can
kitchen
everyone
table in it.
yeah, can everyone talk about how they're working these days, how that's going?
So I guess I can start. Yeah, I've since about the 16th of March, I've been mostly working from home. I'll go in an hour or two here and there for some scanning, printing, picking up mail, checking files, grabbing if I have a file that I need. But for the most part, the firm's been really good about a seamless transition, and it seems like everyone communicates well about who needs to be in the office, people are coming in. Also seems like every time I go in there, wiping down all the services. So I think we're doing as good a job as possible. I mean, Dave, you have your ear to the ground in the legal community. I think I kind of do too. And I don't know if all firms are taking precautions, but I'm glad that we are. It's such a good example for our clients and shows that we care about our staff and our.
Yeah, personally, I'm working about half and half. It just kind of depends on the day. And also depends on what my kids and my wife's schedule is at home, depending on if they're doing their remote school work. And if I have to do a Zoom or a Teams meeting, if I need the silence, I'll come into the office because even though we've got some room, it seems like wherever we are, there's a kid or somebody walking in the background of a meeting. So still trying to keep in mind the confidentiality concerns, obviously, of clients. And so it just kind of depends. If I've got a day where it's just working on documents and other, Microsoft Word and other, work, I can stay at home. But if it's one of those where I want to be behind a closed door, I'll typically come in. The nice thing is the way the office is situated now, we've got about, we never have more than probably 6 to 7 people here, but everybody is definitely banned out in terms of the social distancing. We're definitely more than 20 feet away from each other. And so we're just being very cognizant of keeping distance, and it's almost, it's a perfect setup. And then we have some people that will leave in the morning, and then the second wave will come in the afternoon. So we just communicate through Microsoft Teams and email and other ways, and text, and every way you talk. Basically it allows us to get in here and still do the work, but also keeping in mind all the precautions. So
we're running probably 5 different offices out of the house because of the kind of work that my wife does. We've got a dual T1 line into the house, so it's not a connectivity issue, it's a space issue. And so I had to actually clean out the Dodge Street Sun Porch to use as my office, because my office got overrun by 2 students working on their distance learning. So, and I was, I've got a backward schedule to begin with. So I come into the office, from about 10 o'clock at night till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And then the clients, for the most part, it's all communication via the phone. The joy of having a firm like Goosmann, where the insistence was on, you've got to be proficient on a non-paper world. Sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes I'd rather just print out the 100-page document and have that with me. It's a security blanket, but man, it sure is nice to log in from home and not have to lug. I actually had to carry 2 boxes back and forth to not have to do that on a regular basis. So we've got a very nice setup at the Goosmann Law Firm to allow us to work remotely, COVID-19 or not. I mean, it really, this has tested the system, but it's something that we're ready for.
And that's, something that you guys have leaned into technology to allow, somebody in Omaha to work on something that could, be originated in a different office and so on and so forth. So this is not anything new, except that maybe support staff, they're not there as much, or you're not in person as much. But there's some other things that I think that Goosmann's been very unique on in town, and without giving away the trade secrets, the secret sauce, you know, one thing, and actually this is sort of a teaser for later on in the week. You all do Clifton StrengthsFinder when you're understanding how your teams work, when you're looking to add staff and attorneys, and you know, that's something that I think is sort of leading edge in legal world. It's been embraced by a lot of other business entities and professions out there. But can you talk a little bit about that and how that makes your team work better?
Yeah. So Gina Goosmann, when she and I were talking about starting the Goosmann office, I was the first one to take the Gallup Strength Finder, and she had been using it for years and talked about, you know, working in, you know, people's strength zones. And so when I took that test, and I had my assistant take it also, we had been working together. She and I, Deb Heller and I had been working together for, probably 8-9 years by that point. And it was eye-opening to me to see, obviously, how accurate I thought mine was when I was looking at the results of my top 5 strengths, but also in turn looking at her top 5 strengths. That you know, I could probably have guessed a few of them, but what it really does is help you communicate to your teammates. You know, even though Deb and I knew each other very well, to be able to know, you know, how she likes to be communicated with, in terms of what, you know, for instance, her skill set and her, I guess it's almost a work language. I'm not going to call it a love language because there's all those personality tests out there, but she likes to be communicated a certain way in terms of, you know, she likes to receive praise. She likes to be recognized for the good work she does. And I think it was helpful for me to kind of learn how she works in her sweet spots, to allow that communication between people who have been working together for years. On a global scale, I think it allows everybody, you know, we obviously, each person who comes in takes the strength finder, and we all display our top 5 strengths in our offices, so you can kind of, you know, get a reminder when you walk into everybody's office where people, you know, where they are in the world. But it also just kind of, you know, kind of shows how people work. Obviously, I'm a relationship person, whereas some other folks in the office are more strategic and got to have a plan, whereas I am, you know, more of a, you know, fly a little bit by the adaptability seat of my pants. That's just kind of I think it's very helpful, but it also allows us to work and maybe navigate and marshal certain work to certain people. Whereas we can kind of also all look at where our basements are, where our weaknesses are, and kind of work on those things to maybe show up the way we need to in a client meeting, or, you know, basically, you know, that's the next step. Maybe we'll have to have our clients take those tests because, and it's not a test, but it's really it's an evaluation. But it's helped us really operate, I think, as efficiently as we can, and obviously sets us up for success a lot better. And I think, to your point, a lot of bigger, I guess, non-law businesses have maybe been doing this in a corporate setting for a while, but I think the fact that we've embraced it has been very helpful and very a big part of our success.
Larry, you held yours up there. What were they again?
There's my 5.
Communication, achiever, activator, learner, belief. Is that, and that's the order, right? Communication.
That's your one. That's my 1 through 5. And communicator, I knew. And to kind of piggyback on Joel, the thing that I liked so much about the Clifton StrengthsFinder, it's the bottom of the list. It's the things that you're terrible at. Number 1, listen, we can't ask Larry to operate in that spectrum because he's terrible at it. But number 2, we should definitely encourage, incentivize, build a structure that allows him to admit that weakness, figure out how we can take that weakness and turn it, because you have to, in this, the StrengthsFinder, you have to be, you need to, at some point, be able to address all the points in the StrengthsFinder world. Some you just might be cognizant of, some you excel at. But the ones that you actually have a weakness on, you have to be willing to get better at that thing, because you'll be dealing with clients or opposing counsel or judges who that's their strength. That's the thing that they go to. And if you can't speak that language or understand where they're coming from or how they're motivated, that's to your disadvantage. And so that's one of those weird things that, you know, that's not what a law firm does.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what
Yeah.
a lawyer should be focusing on. But in reality, it's good for business because we're in the service business. Our service.
Yeah, I would add
happens to
that.
be law.
And I would add also, with regard to the bottom of the list, it does allow you to kind of build a framework for your colleagues and for your staff. You can know somebody might need help, maybe do some planning that fact your weaknesses in as well, I guess, as well as your strengths. So it allows them to kind of take advantage of what they're best at and support others with what they need help with. It allows us to kind of fill in some gaps and know what we're looking for when looking to add somebody or putting some new systems in place. It helps us really tailor everything really carefully.
You know, I think sometimes, and I've come to this more realization late, is that, you know, sometimes we consider ourselves heroes. We can do it all, right? We can give us a task, we will do it great. We will do it phenomenally. And this really, what I found is it tells me what I actually do great and what I really should try to delegate if I can. I can work on it, and I do need to work on some things, but also understanding I can't knock this project out of the park because this is opposite of how I actually function. And I'm just setting myself up for a failure or not a good final project. So I'm learning a lot from it. I'm glad we're going to be talking to Tasha Everman of Nebraska Law School, College of Law. They actually utilize it down there for their staff and for their students, and they give their students this knowledge coming in on how they best work, and so that they can hopefully be better students and new attorneys. So that was a little teaser, I guess, but also, hey, it can be used in a law firm setting in an effective way, which, you know, we're not all our silos working separately. We can actually work better as a team if we understand how to do that. And, you know, it's not a one size fits all. So I think I recommend it to everybody for sure. Now, one other thing that, and we don't have to get into this too much because it is a little secret saucy, but you guys, you track your client interactions. You have a system in place for that. And I think understanding the business of law practice is something that, again, is sort of, oh, if you do a good job, your clients will come, right? If you do the work, they will be there. You know, your reputation takes a lifetime to build up, a second to you know, tear down, all that out there. But really, we're also in the business of providing that service and making sure that they know that we're there when they need us. And a lot of times the people won't think of hiring an attorney or getting counsel when they need it. And so you have this effective CRM, I believe is the acronym, that kind of tracks that. And that's intuitive on some level, but we've never really thought about that. Can you guys talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, and again, that's probably, some people are naturally better at it, obviously, than others in terms of kind of have the CRM, client relationship management software in their head. But for a lot of us, especially when you get busy, it's really easy to, you know, let those things slip off top of mind. And what that software does for us is it helps us probably listen better when we're in front of the client and kind of ask the right questions and hopefully listen, but also capture what we hear and, you know, be diligent enough to write it down. And so the next time we talk to them, we kind of pick up where we left off, and we can kind of jumpstart ourselves back into that conversation and say, hey, last time, you know, we were together, you mentioned you were starting that new software, you know, whatever it is that the client was working on. How's that going? To ask the right questions that will jumpstart and kind of get us back to where we left off sooner, and hopefully get us to the point where they can realize that it's time to engage our services, or, you know, to ask the next question to get to that next point where we can get there sooner. So it's helped us, I think, also not just capture that information, but just, it's easy to forget about following up with people, and especially we want to keep those people that are close to becoming our clients close. So we want to make it a point to almost use that tickler component of that software to get back in touch with those people, to stay top of mind. and just remind them who we are and that we're here to help whenever that time comes. And I think that has helped us, and I know it has. It's helped me personally just to stay in front of people that we want to start working with. So it's been very helpful for me.
Absolutely.
And then even the teaser communication. So the CRM is a specific relationship between the lawyer and the customer or potential customer. And that's a nice format. And probably last week I got six or seven clients that I hadn't talked to in probably 2 months. We had gotten to a certain point. I had taken them as far as they wanted to go. They had stopped. There was specific business decisions that they needed to make and were they going to move forward. And then they stopped. There's other things that were more pressing. And then just in our natural communications firm-wide, whether it be the firm newsletter, whether it be we do special updates, we've done a COVID-19 resource email, and here's your emergency response team, and here, what can we do to help you? And that was enough to spur them to say, I got some spare time on my hands now. How about we kick the tires on this thing again? And within 30 seconds of them reaching out to me, you can pick up exactly where you left off because you've got that system in place. That doesn't mean that in some other setting you couldn't have done through some notes and, oh yeah, I remember what he wanted. Now I remember that thing. It's just right at the tip of a finger here. And that's just a nice tool to have when you're in competition to try getting business.
Absolutely. And it's, also the efficiency passes down to the client that you're more effective in your work with them. So that's great. You talked a bit about COVID-19 crisis. Here we are. Without giving any specific legal advice, but you guys are getting questions about this and you're advising on this. What are you telling people? What crazy question scenarios are coming in? What are you telling people right now? Yes, the courthouse is closed except for emergencies. Yes, hearings, trials have been pushed off, hearings have been pushed off. But how are you advising right now?
And
So I can jump in.
Take it, Patrick.
So a lot of my communication with my clients right now has been helping them figure out where we stand. Now that could relate from potential gross or federal relief is available to what does their obligations say on their agreements? What do they have? What are they owed clients? Are they owed by their vendors? And I don't just mean money. I mean, what are their responsibilities? What do they do? Figuring out where they stand and making sure that communication with the clients with their customers and vendors is key. So, if a client doesn't think they're going to be able to deliver on an agreement they have with a customer or something, knowing what the agreement provides for in such a case, and then fully and clearly communicating with customers to say where we stand, maybe to ask for some allowances if there's additional time, just trying to have our clients communicate, work with their customers, work with vendors, and try relationships moving forward as much as possible and just moving forward.
Larry, Joel?
If you're a fan or have become well-versed in How I Met Your Mother, Barney Stinson repeatedly has to demonstrate the scream chain. It used to be a scream pyramid. And you're in a situation where there's some bad economic positions that people find themselves at all levels, from the biggest corporation to the smallest mom and pop shop to the employees and their kids and families. And so it's a big old burger that no one really wants to take a bite out of. And for the most part, people are being decent about it, it's not a legally accurate term. And that's probably not something we can try codifying. But for the most part, people are being sympathetic to the situations that we find ourselves in. If that lasts another 30 or 60 days, great, fantastic. It is somewhat annoying that cans keep getting kicked down the road, but you can understand it. Some of the courts are being productive and proactive, and they're going to do their teleconferences and Zoom. I did a couple Zoom hearings already. I was quite impressed that the judges knew what that was. Even if they didn't, their bailiffs got them up to speed. And so it's just reminding clients that yeah, this is a different and unique situation that we find ourselves in, but it's not, there's no reason to really over panic. And you can overthink this thing to death. And so just reminding people, like we do on our calls, Nick Montague said this morning, make sure you take 5 minutes, step outside, breathe the air, look up at the sun, enjoy. And you've got to tell your clients that too. Like, I get it, stuff's rough, whether you're the one trying to collect money or someone's trying to collect it from you, or just take 5-10 minutes every day. And remember, this is just a little blip, and we're going to get it back on track. In the meantime, let's make sure we're doing this, good business practices. We're doing that, whether it be filings, for specific protections, payroll protection, the CARES Act, stuff like that. And just, staying as informed as we can. Don't become part of the problem. Do what you can to be part of the solution.
That's great.
On my end, I think I'm proud of the response team and Patrick and other folks, and Larry's helped, in terms of putting together a nice toolbox and kind of at least a one-stop shop on our webpage to go and look at the toolbox and the different practice areas and things we're seeing both locally, nationally, in all of our states. So that's been very, very great, a great thing that we've done. And, I think I'm proud that we were kind of on the front edge of this. I think we had advised some clients to start talking to their landlords very early on to say, hey, can we put 2-3 months of our rent? We're not asking for a free pass here. Can we put this at the end of the term of the lease? I think some of our clients were the first people to ask that question of their landlord in some situations, and I think that's shows that we were forward thinking and kind of anticipating the legal needs that people didn't even know they had yet because it wasn't really on the news yet. But proud of the way the team has reacted. I think you're seeing some challenges for all practicing attorneys in terms of maintaining confidentiality when you're at home. I touched on that a little bit earlier, but just generally just staying within the rules with all the challenges that we're faced with in terms of technology, and obviously Zoom, and some of the folks, we're on a Zoom call right now, Facebook, but maintaining client confidences even when Zoom is being attempted to be hacked by people trying to Zoom bomb calls and things, and what are my duties. And what we're learning is, as long as we're taking responsible actions to protect those calls and relying on people to do this for a living, Zoom and Teams and Cisco, all those folks, we're going to be okay. But we have a duty to stay at the top level of technology and make sure that we're well versed in any of them. So yeah, I think some of those things will be ongoing challenges. And I think now is the time, if you have a quiet time in your practice, is go watch some CLEs on these topics and rely on the experts to give you some best practices, and also pick up your CLE hours, because wouldn't it be nice to have that all done by right now? And I know the OBA has great resources in that regard, and just rely on those CLE providers to get that stuff done now, while maybe your practice, if it's a little bit quieter, or you just got to check those boxes and get those things done now while you can.
I like to think of myself as an optimist, and as we're talking about this, you all are very well versed in business, entities, laws, and things like that. Going forward, it seems to me like there could be a huge opportunity that comes out of this for business entrepreneurs that can maybe snag some really good staffs, some people that may be laid off right now that were in the service industry. There's going to be opportunities to certainly use some of this money from the federal government and to put it to use to sort of readjust in a good way. And I don't know, am I crazy on that? Well, do you guys have any thoughts on maybe some good that's going to come out of this, something that isn't just doom and gloom?
And I'll jump on this because we've been advocates of it for a long time. It's the flexibility. And again, there's nothing wrong with old school. There's nothing wrong with the way things have been done. But to say we have to do things the same way just because that's how we've always done it, because I've never been exposed to, never had a reason to do something else. If you can't, in any kind of business setting, short of the direct, again, your server has to put the plate on the table in front of you. you can't see the flexibility and the opportunities that creates for you, your workforce, your client customer base, your ability to pivot on a dime from weather to new products to the past month and will probably be the next couple months have demonstrated. Then I think you're really missing this. We built these systems and we've got this infrastructure that allows for 100 million people to sit at home and work. And, you know, maybe on day one, your feet are up on the table and you're thinking to yourself, you've won the lottery because you're going to get paid to keep doing close to nothing. But you know what? By that second day, you're like, man, I'm bored already. I watched the 3 Hobbit movies. Like, all I got to do is knock out Lord of the Rings. And now what am I going to do? You know, so let's do some work. Let's figure out the best way to get this stuff done. So the flexibility should be the first thing that's on everyone's mind. You want to talk about a nice ace up your sleeve to have when you're trying to hire a new employee, when you're trying to negotiate benefits. You know, you don't got to come to the office on Mondays or Fridays. Just be here Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursdays. That's just, I think that's going to be a game changer for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think to add on what Larry's saying, I do think it's going to create a lot more efficiency in how we're able to practice, whether that changes or causes lower rates, or whether it causes us to be able to do work on alternative fee structures. I do think that as far as the legal practice goes, it's going to change a lot, how we practice and how we interact with our clients and how we're engaged by our clients. And yeah, it's potentially at the expense of certain industries. You know, if we're driving billions of less miles a year, I don't imagine that's great for the auto industry or for the fossil fuel industry. But it does create a lot of benefit to industries that do have the ability to adapt. And I think a good role for us is going to be, you know, we're not exactly business consultants. You know, we are counselors, and we are there to help advise our clients about who we think improve their business. And I think a lot of our advice in the future is how can we streamline clients' businesses, make sure that they're compliant with existing employment laws, all different regulations that regulate our interactions. But I do think that we're a lot of value if we're able to stay on top of new trends and communicate those to our clients.
Yeah, I think you know, speaking for the Goosmann law firm, I mean, most of what we do is business centric in terms of, you know, helping business folks, you know, win their disputes and close deals. I think, you know, closing deals right now is a little bit harder. So what I think the good thing for the firm has been, and, you know, we've got a diverse area of practice areas, and we can kind of pivot, and some people that maybe didn't do some other types of work are going to probably, you know, be helping out and assisting our other practitioners that are working in the areas that heat up because of everything that's happened. So that'll be the challenge, and we just look forward to those challenges and kind of staying on top of where things are going to go. So we're excited to see what happens next.
And I would like to add, don't miss an opportunity to continue or increase your involvement in those non-work related things, those nonprofits, those social organizations, those community organizations. Oh, I always wish I could do that thing, but you know, I don't have time to make phone calls. I don't have time to send out an email. I don't have a time. Well, now you got some spare time in theory. That doesn't apply for everybody across the board, but you know, now's the time to remember that we've got just as much a commitment to the world of our social engagement, individually, us as a firm, in the world of the law, to make sure we take advantage of this situation as well.
Absolutely. Now, I've run out of my questions. Is there anything you guys wanted to add to the legal community, to anybody watching this? Hi, Mom. I always say hi, Mom. You know, you guys are doing great things, and I think you're a wonderful example for the firms out there that are looking at how to lean into this. But is there anything that I missed that you want to let people know about?
Make sure, if people can, within the next 21 minutes, Yahoo Sports has been doing a greatest of all time, and their greatest college football team. It's the '95 Huskers against the 2019 LSU Tigers. And it was 55% to Nebraska, 45 for LSU last time I checked. So you got like 20 minutes to vote. So get that done.
Is there a limit on how many votes you can do?
Well, you can only do once from your phone and once from a computer. You just go to other people's computers. You'll be okay.
Before we went live, Patrick and I were talking a little bit about, this is a good time to educate all of our clients or potential clients. And Patrick was doing some blogging and some other just educational materials. And so I think, again, our website and being able to be found when people Google you is important. And obviously, to the extent you're diversifying your content on your website, now is a great time to do that. And kudos to Patrick and all the other folks that have been busy writing timely blogs for people when they do a search. To be found right now that's the difference between getting a client and not. So that's obviously something that we pride ourselves in getting it done. So
I would also add just I know this is probably mostly lawyers listening to this right now, but don't be afraid to communicate with your clients in alternative ways. I mean, most of the lawyers listening wouldn't have ever doing a FaceTime or a Zoom conference with their client, but like it's a new world. Don't be afraid to do that. I mean, we're trying to keep up our relationship, prove our relationships. And if your client is more comfortable with you because you 15-minute Zoom call, maybe talking about work, that's going to be good for business. It's going to be good for client retention, and it's going to be good to keep you top of mind with your clients.
The other thing I was thinking that it's a good time to review all the great software you already have. You don't have to go out and buy new things necessarily, but speaking personally, I think we've learned a lot about Microsoft Teams. It's something we're already paying for as part of our Microsoft 365 platform, and it was pretty eye-opening, the things that we were not using. So I think it's a good time to maximize your software you're already paying for.
Absolutely. And if we keep inviting Patrick to these video calls, we're going to get like a direct link sat link for him, so we can increase his internet speed there in Bennington.
It's an issue of intermittency. I've been doing speed tests throughout this, and sometimes I'll have 90, 100 megabits. I'll have 1 or 2. It's a complaint in my neighborhood. I don't think it's a me problem. I think it's a Cox, Bennington, Nebraska problem. But I agree that it's an issue. Right now, I have 45 megabits a second, so we should be good.
It's not the content that you're giving us. It's the pixelation and the little warbled sound. So, well, thank you all for spending the time with us today. We'll push this out on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube here shortly. So it'll be on that. It'll be on the Omaha Bar Association website. There'll be a link at the top, so you can watch this later on. You don't have to watch it live, even though we do these live for the most part. But thank you guys from Goosmann Law. And hey, next time they're going to be ladies on this. There hasn't been a female on this since we started. We're getting women on here. Don't worry. If I have to grab my wife and talk to her on this, we're going to get some female presence on this. So thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dave.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Dave.